5 days had passed since the first meeting. The human team had set up a proper camp near the landing site. Quan and Threx met every day, sharing stories about hunting, about survival, about what it meant to be a predator. The dragon was fascinated by human history, and Quan was equally interested in Vryn culture. On the 6th morning, Yuna woke Quan before dawn. "We have visitors. Important ones." 3 massive Vryn landed in the clearing. They were older than Threx, their scales duller but thicker. The largest one had scars across her face and neck, white lines against black scales. Her eyes were yellow instead of the usual gold. "That's Elder Velroth," Threx explained quietly. He had arrived just before the elders, and he seemed nervous. "She is our oldest council member. Very traditional, very skeptical." Velroth walked forward with the heavy confidence of someone who had never been challenged. The other 2 elders flanked her, silent and watching. She stopped a few meters from Quan and looked him up and down. "So," her translator said, "these are the humans, the ones who claim to be predators." "We don't claim it," Quan said politely. "We are." "Threx has told us interesting stories," Velroth continued. "He says you eat raw meat, that your ancestors hunted, that you carry the instincts of hunters." She snorted, a blast of hot air from her nostrils. "I see soft skin, blunt teeth, no claws, weak legs. You look like prey to me." Dahun whispered to Yuna, "This is going badly." Velroth's yellow eyes fixed on Quan. "Threx is young, easily impressed, but I have lived 300 cycles. I have seen many species. Some are predators, some are prey. You, human, are prey pretending to be dangerous." "I understand your doubt," Quan said calmly. "Do you?" Velroth's tail lashed behind her. "Then you will not object to proving yourself. We have a tradition. When 2 predator clans meet, they hunt together. If you can keep pace with true hunters, if you can make a kill, then we will accept you as equals." Threx stepped forward. "Elder, that is not necessary." "It is," Velroth cut him off. "If these humans want an alliance, they must prove themselves in the way of predators. Not with words, with action." Nari grabbed Quan's arm. "You can't. The creatures on this planet are massive. You don't have the right equipment." But Quan was already nodding. "I accept." Yuna's face went pale. "Quan, be reasonable. You're a scientist, not a hunter." "I'm both," Quan said. He looked at Velroth. "What are we hunting?" "The Kaishak," Velroth said with satisfaction. 6 legs, armored hide, faster than wind. Even we hunt them in packs. It is the most dangerous prey on our world." She smiled, showing all her teeth. "If you slow us down, we will leave you behind. If you cannot make a kill, you fail." "Do you still accept?" "Yes." Dahun pulled out his tablet and started calculating frantically. The Kaishak averages 4 meters tall and weighs about 2 tons, running speed up to 80 kilometers per hour. It has natural armor plating that can deflect most impacts. He looked up at Quan with worry. "The numbers aren't good." "They never are," Quan said. He went to his equipment and started sorting through it. He pulled out a simple spear, about 2 meters long with a metal tip. That was all. "That's it?" Threx asked. "No plasma weapons? No energy shields?" "Vryn don't use weapons," Quan said. "So neither will I. This is fair." Velroth's eyes narrowed. "You surprise me, human. I expected you to refuse or to demand your technology." She turned to the other elders. "We hunt at midday, when the Kaishak come to the river to drink." The hunting party gathered at the forest edge, when the sun was directly overhead. There were 5 Vryn, Velroth, Threx, and 3 others, and Quan. The human looked tiny next to the dragons, but he moved with confidence. Yuna had wanted to come along with weapons, but Quan had refused. "If I can't do this on my terms, it doesn't count." They moved into the forest in silence. The Vryn were surprisingly quiet for their size, their feet finding solid ground without snapping branches. Quan followed, watching where they stepped, learning the terrain. After an hour, Frex raised his head. His nostrils flared. Kaishak, 3 of them, near the river. He glanced at Quan. "Can you smell them?" "No," Quan admitted, "but I can see their tracks." He pointed to the ground, where massive 3-toed footprints pressed deep into the soft earth. "They came through here recently. The mud is still wet." One of the other Vryn made a surprised sound. "You track by sight?" "Humans are visual hunters," Quan explained quietly. "Details." They continued forward, moving slower now. Through the trees, Quan could hear water running, the river. And something else, heavy breathing, the sound of large animals drinking. Velroth signaled with her tail. The Vryn spread out, surrounding the river clearing. Quan moved to the side, keeping low. The Kaishak were exactly as terrifying as Daehyun had described. 3 of them stood at the water's edge, drinking. They looked like a mixture of a rhinoceros and a beetle, with armored plates covering their bodies, and 6 legs ending in sharp claws. Horns curved from their heads, and their eyes glowed a faint red. Velroth looked at Quan. The message was clear. "Show us what you can do." But Quan didn't charge in. Instead, he backed away from the clearing, moving carefully and quietly. Threx watched him with confusion. The other Vryn looked at each other. Was the human running away? For several minutes, nothing happened. Kaishak continued drinking, unaware. The Vryn waited, tense and ready. Then one of the Kaishak raised its head. It had heard something, a sound from the far side of the clearing. The creature turned, alert. The sound came again. A sharp crack, like a branch breaking. The Kaishak snorted and moved away from the water, investigating. It walked directly into a trap. Quan had spent his time creating a simple but effective snare. Vines pulled tight around the Kaishak's front legs. It roared and thrashed, trying to break free. The other 2 Kaishak panicked and ran in opposite directions. And then Quan appeared from the trees. He ran straight at the trapped Kaishak, his spear ready. The creature saw him coming and tried to swing its horned head, but the vines held its legs. It couldn't turn fast enough. Quan didn't aim for the armored hide. He aimed for the soft spot where the neck met the body. The spear went in, clean and deep. The Kaishak made a terrible noise, thrashed once more, and then fell still. Silence filled the clearing. The Vryn stared. Quan pulled his spear free and stepped back, breathing hard but steady. Velroth walked forward slowly. She examined the dead Kaishak, the trap, the killing blow. Her yellow eyes studied Quan with new intensity. "You did not use strength," she said finally. "You used thinking, planning, patience." "That's how humans hunt," Quan said. "We're not the strongest or the fastest, but we can think ahead, we can prepare, we can wait." Velroth's scales shifted to a deep purple color. The other Vryn gasped. Purple was the color of deep respect, rarely shown. "You are predators," Velroth said. "Different from us, but predators nonetheless. Perhaps more dangerous, because you kill with your mind as much as with your weapons." She bowed her great head slightly. "You have earned your place as equals." Threx moved to Quan's side, pride clear in his posture. "I told you, Elder." "Yes," Velroth said. "You did." She looked at Quan again. "Welcome, hunters. Let us speak of alliances." 3 weeks had passed since the hunt. The human camp had grown into a proper research station with the help of the Vryn. Quan spent his days teaching Threx about human culture while learning about Vryn social structures. Nari documented everything. Daehyun had become fascinated by Vryn biology and was constantly taking measurements. Even Yuna had relaxed, often sitting with some of the younger Vryn and sharing stories about flying. It was supposed to be a time of peace and discovery. Then the alarms went off. Daehyun burst into Quan's workspace, his tablet clutched in shaking hands. We have ships, multiple ships, entering the system. Everyone rushed to the communications center. On the main screen, Yuna pulled up the sensor data. 5 large vessels were approaching Vrin 4, moving in tight formation. Military formation. Can you identify them? Quan asked. Working on it, Nari said, her fingers flying over the console. A moment later, her face went white. Oh no, they're Krell. The name made everyone freeze. Even Threx, who had followed them into the building, seemed to understand the significance. Krell Dominion, Yuna said quietly. One of the largest military empires in this sector. They're known for conquering primitive worlds and taking their resources. A communication request pinged on the console. Nari hesitated, then accepted it. The screen flickered, showing a reptilian face with cold blue eyes and scales that looked like metal plates. The Krell wore a military uniform, marked with symbols of high rank. I am Commander Zathix of the Krell Dominion, the alien said. His voice was sharp and clipped. This system has been designated for resource extraction. All native inhabitants have 72 hours to evacuate the planet or submit to Krell authority. Threx's scales turned crimson. You have no right. We have the right of superior force, Zathix interrupted. Your species is primitive, pre-spaceflight. Under Galactic Law Section 47, you have no claim to resources you cannot defend. He smiled, showing sharp teeth. Evacuate or be removed. These are your only options. The screen went dark. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Threx turned to Quan, his eyes desperate. You have ships, technology, can you help us? The Harmony's Gate is a research vessel, Yuna said sadly. We have some shields, some basic weapons, but nothing that could stand against a Krell warship. Then we fight on the ground, Threx said. My people are warriors. We will defend our home. Dehun pulled up tactical data on the Krell forces. They have plasma weapons that can target from orbit. Even if they land troops, they'll have energy shields, powered armor, long-range weapons. With respect, Threx, your people wouldn't stand a chance. Threx's shoulders sagged. Around the room, other Vrin who had gathered to listen made sounds of despair. Quan had been quiet, staring at the blank screen. Now he spoke. What if we combined our strengths? Everyone looked at him. What do you mean? Yuna asked. The Vrin are natural hunters, Quan said. They coordinate instinctively. They understand terrain. They're fast, strong, and they can fly. He looked at Yuna. And humans understand tactics, strategy. We've been fighting wars for thousands of years. Yuna frowned. I'm a pilot, Quan, not a military commander. But you were, Quan said, before you joined the research division. Don't think I didn't see your service record. Yuna's jaw tightened. That was a long time ago. 10 years, Quan said, and you served in the Colonial Defense Force during the Perimeter Wars. You know military tactics. You know how to fight against superior technology. Threx stepped forward. You would help us, truly? The Galactic Council sent us here for more than research, Yuna admitted slowly. They wanted to see if the Vrin could be allies, real allies. She looked around the room. If we're going to do this, we need to do it right. We need a plan. Over the next 24 hours, the human camp transformed into a war room. Yuna stood at a large holographic display showing the planet's surface, the Krell ship's positions, and potential landing sites. Threx had gathered the Vrin Council, including Elder Velroth. The Krell will expect open combat, Yuna explained. They'll land ground forces in what they think are strategic locations. They're used to quick victories against primitive species. Then we will show them we are not primitive, Velroth growled. Exactly, Yuna said. But we don't fight their way. We use guerrilla tactics. Hit and run. We use the terrain. The forests. The mountains. The Vryn know this land better than any invader ever could. Quan added, humans used these tactics against superior forces many times in our history. Small groups, surprise attacks, never giving the enemy a clear target. Can your people coordinate at that level? Yuna asked Threx. Can you split into hunting packs but still work toward a common goal? Threx's scales shifted to a confident gold. That is exactly how we hunt. Every Vryn knows their role. We move as one, even when spread across great distances. Daehyun had been working frantically at his station. I've been analyzing Vryn biology, specifically the chemical mixture you use for your fire breath. If I'm right, I can modify it, make it hotter, hot enough to burn through Krell armor. How? One of the Vryn elders asked. By adding magnesium powder to your diet, Daehyun explained. Your bodies store the chemicals in special glands. If you consume magnesium-rich foods, it should increase the combustion temperature significantly. We don't have much time, Nari said. She was monitoring the Krell fleet. They're moving into orbital positions. They'll start landing troops within 12 hours. Then we work fast, Yuna said. She looked at the assembled Vryn. Can you spread the word? Every Vryn hunter needs to understand the plan. Hit them in small groups. Target their communications, their supply lines. Make every step on your world costly for them. Velroth stood tall. My people have defended this world from predators for millions of years. These Krell are just another threat. She looked at Quan and Yuna. But this time we have allies who hunt as we do. We will show them what happens when predators work together. The night before the Krell landing, Quan found Threx standing at the edge of the camp, looking up at the stars. The Krell ships were visible now, dark shapes crossing in front of the moons. Are you afraid? Quan asked. Yes, Threx admitted, but also excited. Is that strange? No, Quan said. That's the predator's instinct. Fear keeps us sharp. Excitement gives us courage. He smiled. We're about to hunt something that thinks it's the hunter. That's always interesting. Your species has done this before, Threx said. Fought against greater numbers, against better weapons. Many times, Quan confirmed. We don't always win, but we always make it costly, and we never give up. Threx's scales shifted through several colors before settling on determined red. Then tomorrow, we show the Krell what it means to invade a predator's home. Tomorrow, Quan agreed, we hunt. Above them, the Krell ships continued their orbit, unaware that below, two predator species were preparing a welcome that would be remembered across the galaxy. The Krell landed at dawn. Their dropships screamed through the atmosphere in precise formation, touching down at 6 strategic locations across the planet. Commander Zathix watched from his flagship's bridge with satisfaction. The operation was proceeding perfectly. Ground forces report minimal resistance, his tactical officer said. A few native creatures observed at distance, but nothing significant. Good, Zathix said. Begin surveying operations. I want mineral assessments within the hour. What he didn't know was that every single Krell soldier was being watched. In the trees, behind rocks, from mountain caves, hundreds of Vryn waited with unnatural patience. They had learned quickly from Yuna's lessons about modern warfare. Don't reveal your numbers. Don't engage until the moment is perfect. The first attack came at the northern landing site. A squad of 10 Krell soldiers were setting up scanning equipment when the forest around them erupted. Vryn came from 3 sides, moving faster than the Krell's sensors could track. Before the soldiers could activate their shields, streams of enhanced fire washed over them. The modified chemical mixture burned through their armor like paper. The attack lasted 30 seconds. When it ended, the scanning equipment was destroyed, and the Vryn had vanished back into the forest. Report, Zathix demanded as alarms blared across his bridge. Northern site under attack. Communications cut. No visual on hostiles. Deploy reinforcements. Full combat protocols. But the reinforcements never made it to the northern site. They were ambushed on the way, hit from above by Vryn, who dropped from the trees, attacked and flew away before the Krell could return fire. It was like fighting ghosts. At the human camp, Yuna monitored multiple data streams. It's working. The Krell are confused. They keep sending troops to engage, but there's nothing to engage with. How long can we keep this up? Nari asked. Not long enough, Yuna admitted. The Krell will figure it out eventually. And when they do, they'll start orbital bombardment. They'll burn the forests, level the mountains. They'll make the terrain advantage meaningless. Quan had been studying the tactical display. Then we need to take the fight to them. We need to hit the ships directly. With what? Daehyun asked. The Harmony's Gate is not a warship. No, Quan agreed, but it can get us close. And Threx said Vryn can survive in vacuum for short periods. Yuna's eyes widened. You want to board their ships? Why not? They're not expecting it, and once we're inside, their superior weapons don't matter as much. On the Krell flagship, Commander Zathix was losing his patience. 3 hours of fighting had produced nothing but casualties and destroyed equipment. The natives were using tactics he had never encountered from a pre-spaceflight species. Sir, we're detecting a small craft approaching from the planet, his sensor officer reported. It's that research vessel, the human ship. Finally, Zathix said, a target we can actually hit. Prepare weapons. Sir, they're hailing us. Zathix smiled. They want to surrender. Accept the hail. Yuna's face appeared on the screen. Commander Zathix, we need to talk. There is nothing to discuss, Zathix replied. Your vessel will be destroyed unless you surrender immediately. I'm not calling to surrender, Yuna said. I'm calling to give you one last chance to leave peacefully. Zathix laughed. You have one small ship, no weapons capable of harming us. You're in no position to make demands. You're right, Yuna said. We're not in a position, but they are. The screen split, showing multiple angles from around the Krell fleet. In each view, Vryn could be seen flying through space, carrying small packages. What is? Zathix started to say, but then the first explosion rocked his ship. Daehyun had spent his time well. He had created simple but effective breaching charges using materials from the human camp. The Vryn, able to survive in vacuum for up to 10 minutes, had carried them directly to the Krell ship's weak points. Hull plating that was designed to resist energy weapons couldn't handle targeted explosions. All ships reporting breaches, the tactical officer shouted. Multiple hull fractures. Shields are offline. Emergency protocols, Zathix ordered. Seal all. Another explosion cut him off. This one was inside the ship. Through the smoke, Quan appeared, wearing a basic spacesuit and carrying his spear. Behind him, Threx squeezed through the breach, followed by 3 more Vryn. You wanted to meet the natives, Quan said calmly. Here we are. What followed was chaos. The Krell soldiers tried to fight, but inside their own ship, they couldn't use heavy weapons without risking hull breaches. The Vryn were in close quarters, their favorite hunting environment. The Krell were strong, but the Vryn were stronger and faster. Quan moved through the corridors with purpose, Threx at his side. They didn't kill unless necessary. Instead, they disabled, destroyed equipment, cut power lines, and created havoc. It was the same strategy they had used on the ground. Make every moment costly, give the enemy no clear targets. Within an hour, 4 of the 5 Krell warships were crippled and drifting. The 5th had begun retreating, its captain deciding that victory wasn't worth the cost. Quan and Threx reached the flagship's bridge. Commander Zathix stood surrounded by the wreckage of his command center, his remaining guards forming a defensive circle. You're terrorists, Zathix spat. Savages. We're defenders, Quan corrected. You came to take this world. We simply showed you it wasn't worth the cost. The Dominion will return, Zathix said. With more ships, more troops. You've only delayed the inevitable. Threx moved forward, his massive form filling the bridge. His scales were the deep purple of respect, but his voice was hard. Perhaps, but every species in the galaxy will hear what happened here. They'll hear that the Krill Dominion was defeated by a primitive world, that you were beaten by predators you underestimated. We could kill you now, Quan said. It would be easy, but we won't. We're predators, Commander, not monsters. There's a difference. He gestured to the disabled bridge. Take your ships, take your troops. Go back to your Dominion and tell them that Vryn 4 is defended. Tell them it's defended by two species who know how to hunt together. For the first time, Quan saw something like respect in his eyes. You're making a mistake, showing mercy. Maybe, Quan agreed, but that's what separates predators from killers. We hunt for purpose, not pleasure. The retreat of the Krell fleet took 6 hours. Ships limped away from Vryn 4, damaged but intact. On the planet's surface, the Vryn gathered to watch them go. There was no celebration, just quiet satisfaction. Elder Velroth found Quan standing at the edge of the research camp, watching the sunset. Threx was beside him, as he often was these days. The Galactic Council has been informed, Velroth said. They are surprised. They did not expect the Krell to retreat. Neither did we, Quan admitted. We got lucky. No, Threx said firmly. We were smart. We worked together. That's not luck. The Council wants to establish formal relations, Velroth continued, between humanity and the Vryn, a proper alliance. They say it's unprecedented. 2 predator species working in cooperation. Why is that so unusual? Nari asked. She had joined them, along with Yuna and Daehan. Because predators compete, Velroth explained. They fight over territory, over resources. The galaxy has never seen predators become allies. Humans figured it out a long time ago, Yuna said. We learned that cooperation makes us stronger than competition. We hunt better in packs. So do we, Threx said. Perhaps that is what we have in common. Not just the hunting instinct, but the understanding that working together makes the hunt successful. Quan pulled out a small container. Inside was fresh meat, properly cooked this time. He had been teaching the Vryn about human cuisine, and some of them were actually starting to enjoy it. He took a bite, then offered the container to Threx. The dragon carefully took a piece, and chewed it thoughtfully. But, good. That's culture, Quan said with a smile, taking what you need and making it into something more. A transmission signal pinged on Nari's datapad. She checked it, then looked up with wide eyes. It's from the Galactic Council. They say dozens of other species want to meet us. They heard about what happened here. They want to know about the humans who befriended dragons. Befriended is such a simple word, Threx said. We are more than friends. We are hunting partners, alliance kin. The galaxy is going to be very interested in this, Velroth said. 2 predator species, working as one. It changes everything about how they think of predators. Quan looked up at the darkening sky. Somewhere up there, in the vast emptiness of space, were countless worlds, countless species. And now, humanity had shown them something new, that predators could be more than hunters. They could be family. You know what humans say? Quan said quietly. We say the pack that hunts together survives together. Then let us hunt, Threx said, his scales shifting to a warm gold. Let us show the galaxy what predators can do when they work as one. Above them, the stars began to appear. The same stars humanity had dreamed of reaching for thousands of years. The same stars the Vryn had watched from their world, wondering what lay beyond. Now they would explore those stars together. 2 species of predators, united not by what made them different, but by what made them the same. The understanding that the greatest hunt of all was the journey itself. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the galaxy waited to see what would happen when humans and dragons decided to hunt the stars as one. The research ship called Harmony's Gate floated in the darkness of space like a small silver fish. Below it, the planet Vryn 4 turned slowly, covered in thick green forests and sharp gray mountains. Inside the ship, Quan checked his equipment one more time. His hands moved with the calm confidence of someone who had done this many times before. "Are you sure about this?" Yuna asked from the pilot's seat. Her fingers drummed nervously on the control panel. "The last 3 species we tried to contact were all herbivores, peaceful. These ones are different." Quan smiled slightly. "That's exactly why I want to meet them." In the back of the shuttle, Daehyun was running final checks on the communication systems. His hands shook a little as he worked. "The reports say the Vryn are apex predators. They've been at the top of their food chain for millions of years. They have teeth as long as my arm, and they can breathe fire. Technically, it's a chemical spray that ignites," Quan corrected, still smiling. "But yes, essentially fire." Nari looked up from her tablet, her eyes bright with curiosity, despite the danger. "The Galactic Council approved this contact because the Vryn have developed complex language and tool use. They're intelligent, but they're also hunters, every single one of them." Yuna guided the shuttle down through the atmosphere. The ship shook as it pushed through the clouds. Soon they could see the landing site, a wide clearing surrounded by massive trees that looked like they had been growing for centuries. The grass was a strange purple color, and everything seemed bigger than it should be. The shuttle landed with a soft thud. For a moment, nobody moved. Through the windows they could see the forest. It was completely silent. No birds singing, no insects buzzing, nothing. "I don't like this," Daehyun whispered. "It's too quiet." "Predator territory," Quan said calmly. He stood up and grabbed his equipment bag. "Everything else knows to stay away. Come on." The door opened with a hiss. The air that rushed in was warm and smelled like flowers, mixed with something sharp and metallic. Quan stepped out first, followed by the others. The grass crunched under their boots. Quan started unpacking instruments, setting up the basic communication equipment. His movements were slow and deliberate, non-threatening. Yuna stood near the shuttle door, ready to run back inside. Daehyun's hand stayed close to the emergency beacon on his belt. Only Nari seemed relaxed, recording everything with her scanner. "How long do we wait?" Yuna asked. "Not long," Quan replied. "They already know we're here." He was right. A shadow passed over them, blocking out the sun. Everyone except Quan looked up. A massive shape circled above them. Wings spread wide. It was bigger than their shuttle. The creature landed 50 meters away. The ground shook from the impact. It was a Vryn, and it was magnificent and terrifying at the same time. Its body was covered in scales that looked like black glass, reflecting rainbow colors in the sunlight. 4 legs, each ending in claws that dug into the earth. 2 massive wings folded against its back. A long tail with spikes at the end. And the head? Oh, the head was all teeth and horns and cold, intelligent eyes. The Vryn walked forward slowly. Its muscles moved under its scales like water. The translator device on its chest crackled to life. "I am Threx. I speak for my people." The voice was deep, like rocks grinding together. "You are the humans." "Yes," Quan said, not moving from where he knelt by his equipment. "I'm Quan. These are my colleagues." Threx walked closer. His nostrils flared, breathing in their scent. Around the clearing, more shapes appeared between the trees. At least a dozen other Vryn, watching silently. Yuna's hand moved toward the emergency beacon. Daehyun took a small step backward. But Quan continued working, assembling a solar panel as if a dragon wasn't circling him. "You are small," Threx observed. "Soft, no claws, no scales, weak." "Probably," Quan agreed pleasantly. He didn't sound offended at all. "The records say your species eats plants, fruits, grains." Threx's tail swished behind him, a sign of agitation. "Prey animals, not hunters." The records are incomplete, Quan said. Threx moved closer still, circling the team now. His eyes never blinked. Every few seconds, his nostrils would flare again, testing the air. The other humans stood very still, barely breathing. Then Threx froze. His entire body went rigid. His scales shifted from black to a deep crimson color, starting at his head and flowing down his body like liquid. His wings snapped open, suddenly huge. His pupils expanded until his eyes were almost completely black. A smell like sulfur filled the air. Quan, Yuna's voice was tight with fear. Threx's lips pulled back, showing rows of teeth. Each one was as long as a knife. His claws extended further, digging deep grooves in the ground. Every muscle in his massive body tensed, ready to spring. The other Vryn at the edge of the clearing all stood up, alert. Several of them started moving forward. Daehun's hand closed on the emergency beacon. We need to go, now. But Quan looked up from his work, finally noticing the commotion. He glanced at Threx, then at his equipment bag. Understanding crossed his face. Oh, he said calmly. Right. Hang on a second. Threx's body remained frozen in attack position. His crimson scales seemed to glow in the sunlight. The sulfur smell grew stronger, making Daehun cough. The other Vryn moved closer, forming a half-circle around the small human team. Yuna grabbed the emergency beacon. Quan, whatever you're going to do it fast. But Quan moved with the same calm, unhurried manner he always did. He reached into his equipment bag and pulled out a small plastic container. It was the kind used for food storage, clear with a blue lid. He popped the lid off with his thumb. Inside was raw meat, dark red, almost purple. Blood pooled at the bottom of the container. Is that what I think it is? Nari whispered, her eyes wide. My lunch, Quan said simply. He pulled out a small fork from his pocket and speared a piece of the raw meat. Then, while Threx watched with those huge black eyes, Quan put the bloody meat into his mouth and chewed. Threx's head jerked back in surprise. His scales flickered between crimson and black, unable to decide. The other Vryns stopped moving forward. Several of them made a noise that sounded like confused chirping. You? Threx's translator struggled with his words. You eat flesh? Raw flesh? Steak tartare, Quan explained, taking another bite. It's a dish from Earth. Raw beef, seasoned with salt, pepper, onions, and a few other things. Very good. Want to try some? He held out the container toward the dragon. Threx didn't move. His wings slowly folded back against his body. The red color drained from his scales, replaced by a swirling pattern of black and dark blue. The sulfur smell faded, replaced by something that smelled like rain on hot stone. The records, Threx said slowly, said that humans were prey species. That you ate only plants and simple foods. That you cooked everything with fire because you could not digest raw meat safely. Quan laughed. It was a genuine, worn sound. The records were written by the Peltharian delegation. They're strict herbivores. I think they were a bit horrified by human dietary habits, so they edited the report. He took another bite of his lunch. We're omnivores, actually. We can eat plants, yes, but we also eat meat. And humans have been eating raw meat for thousands of years. Daehun had lowered his hand from the emergency beacon. He looked between Quan and Threx with amazement. You mean this whole crisis was about your lunch? Apparently, Quan shrugged. I didn't think about how sensitive their sense of smell would be. To Threx, I probably smelled like a predator who had just made a kill. The other Vryn were coming closer now, but cautiously. One of them, slightly smaller than Threx, with scales that were more gray than black, spoke up. Her translator crackled. You hunt? Your species hunts? We used to, Quan said. He set down his lunch container and wiped his hands on a cloth. A long time ago, Humans were persistent hunters. We would chase prey animals for hours, sometimes days, until they collapsed from exhaustion. We weren't fast, but we could run longer than almost anything else. Threx sat down. It was a strange thing to see, a creature so large, folding itself onto the ground like a cat. His tail curled around his body. But you are so small, no claws, weak teeth. We didn't need them, Quan explained. He was in his element now, teaching. We had tools, spears, bows and arrows, and we had strategy. Humans hunt in groups, coordinating our attacks. We plan, we set traps, we think several steps ahead. The confusion smell changed to something sweeter, like flowers. Interest, like us, like you, Quan agreed. Nari had her scanner out, recording everything. This is incredible. First contact is usually so formal, so careful, and here we are discussing hunting techniques. The gray-scaled Vryn moved closer still. But you said used to. You do not hunt anymore? Not for survival, Quan said. Some humans still hunt for sport or tradition, but mostly we farm now. We raise animals for food. We grow crops. We don't need to hunt to survive. He paused. Though we could, if we had to. Yuna had relaxed enough to sit down on the shuttle's ramp. So we're not going to die today? I don't think so, Quan said with a smile. He looked at Threx. Are we? The great dragon made a sound that the translator rendered as laughter. It was a strange noise, like steam escaping from underground. No, human Quan, you will not die today. I am surprised, confused, but not hostile. His eyes focused on the container of raw meat. This food, you said it is beef? Yes, from an animal called a cow. We domesticated them thousands of years ago. Domesticated. Made them your prey, your property. More or less. Threx's head tilted again, considering this. We have never thought to do such a thing. We hunt what we need when we need it. The idea of keeping prey animals, he trailed off. It changed everything for us, Quan said. It allowed us to build cities, to develop technology, to reach the stars. He picked up his lunch container again. Would you like to try it? The meat is from Earth, but the preparation is human-made. For a long moment, Threx didn't respond. The other Vryn watched silently, waiting to see what their speaker would do. Finally, Threx extended his head forward. His massive jaws opened slightly. Quan speared a piece of the raw meat and held it up. The dragon's tongue, surprisingly delicate, took the meat from the fork. Threx chewed thoughtfully, his eyes half closed. It is good, he said finally, different from our prey. The texture is softer. The taste is clean. He pulled back. But why do you add these other flavors? The onion? The pepper? Because we can, Quan said simply. We don't just eat to survive. We eat for pleasure, for culture, for art. The gray-scaled Vryn made a noise of amazement. Art? You make art from hunting? We make art from everything, Nari said, speaking up for the first time. Including food. The sun had moved across the sky while they talked. The shadows were longer now. Threx stood up, shaking himself like a dog shedding water. His scales had returned to their normal black color, catching the light like oil on water. I must report this to the council, he said. This changes much. We thought humans were soft prey thinking, but you are hunters. Predators. Like us. He looked at Quan with what might have been respect. Perhaps we have more to learn from each other than we thought. Perhaps, Quan agreed.